Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. If this is the first time to the channel, welcome. It's lovely to have you here, and I am back today with the first of my Easter projects for this year. So Easter's coming up this month now, and I thought we'd have a go at one or two. I've got one or two Easter products, it's Easter projects should I say, and I'm going to start out with the card that I've done. This is going to be our family Easter card that I'm going to send to the family here. So I've got a couple of different techniques on here, but mainly wanted to focus on the sort of tunnel aspect in here. So I've got layers on this that allow you to look into the background. So yeah, we've got a 7.5-inch square card, and then I've gone with a sort of a yellow, sort of lemon grey contrast theme on there, and then just introduce a little bit of colour, picking elements up from that background paper, and I'll show you where these came from. So yeah, I've got sort of circle nesting dies to create the tunnel, and then these are actually a Tim Holtz die, the bunny stitch dies, which are just adorable. I've just used one of them today, and I've created my bunny already, along with the carrots that come in the kit, and you get the little stitches that you can put on any of the details that are in that die set. So I've got him ready. I've actually die cut him ready to pop on my card there. So yeah, I wanted to show you, I wanted to focus on the how to create the tunnel aspect. I haven't put the insert in yet, I have done it, and we'll pop that in at the end. But yeah, that's where we're going to go with the tutorial today. So I've done a little bit of the matting and layering. We'll just pop that over to one side, and I'll talk you through some of the measurements. So the first part is a handmade card blank, and I've used some of my lovely Centura pearl, that lovely pearlescent finish on here, and it's cut in two parts to make a 7.5 inches square card. So 7.5 inches for the back panel, and then I've done 8 inches by 7.5 with a 1/2 inch tab, and I've just stuck them together to make my nice large card blank to work on. And then the silver layer, this is actually Centura pearl as well, but it could be any cardstock. It was just what I'd put my hands on, is 6 7/8. So I've gone down sort of 3/8 of an inch, and no, 5/8 of an inch, sorry, to create that nice white border around the outside. And then the brick is from a paper pad that I picked up recently, and it's just, I couldn't resist it, brick textures. It's just got all different types of brickwork in, which I thought would come in really handy. So I've taken I think it was this one that they pictured on the front here, and these are from, I think, the range, yeah, here in the UK. So £3.99. It is a recent one. Whether they've still got it in stock, I'm not sure, but £4 for 24 sheets of 12 by 12 paper. I just, you know what I'm like with paper, I just can't help myself. So yeah, that's come through to the stash, and I just put this in the background. Now I've got mine at 5.25 square. It doesn't necessarily need to be that big. You can see here that there's only that little bit through the circle. I wasn't sure at first when I started this whether I wanted some of the brickwork peeking out, but decided I just wanted it in the background. So yeah, it doesn't have to be that big. My last circle is about let's have a little look, about 3 inches. So probably a piece about 3.5 inches would be sufficient to go on that background panel if you're not wanting to waste the cardstock there. So I've got all that stuck down ready so that we're good to go, because that was just simple matting and layering. That's all I've done with those. And then I'll bring some of the layers in. So for my first my sort of foreground layer, I've gone with a slightly lighter panel there, which is 5.25 inches square. This is a paler grey, and it's a little bit textured, and then I've matted that with a piece of 5-inch gingham check from my stash. So yeah, I've started cutting the circles so that we didn't have too much to do during the tutorial. So 5.25 inches for the grey and 5 inches for the checked piece. All right, and then I've taken a series of nesting dies. So I've got my circle nesting dies, and I've gone with 4 consecutive circles. So from my set of nest, you can see there that these are 4 of them that go in order. Now, when you're doing the tunnels, you can leave more than one. So you could, for example, do one and then miss one. But obviously the space I'd got with it being a card front, I've just gone down in individual sizes there. So what I'm going to do then, this one has got the largest piece cut out of it. So let's just move that card blank out of the way for a second so that that doesn't get confusing. So for the front piece in the grey, I've already cut the largest of my circles, and we're going to actually look into that tunnel. So we want the largest one on the top piece of paper. So the check is the top, the grey is the second, and then so on and so on. So the largest piece has been cut, sorry, not in the grey, in that top checked piece. And then what I'm going to do is take the next one and we're going to cut that into that grey. So I've stuck this down. We want a couple of little pieces of tape here, and doing it in this order means that you can centre this now perfectly. Rather than the guesswork, I can have a look now and I can see that I've got the same distance all the way round my grey circle there, so that I've got a nice grey border that will show against the check there. And all I'm going to do is pop that through my Gemini. So we're going to put the cutting plates on, and if you watch me regularly, you know that my machine is just sat behind me here. We're going to pass that through there, cut out that second circle, and we're going to start to create that kind of tunnel effect. All right, so this one, my apologies. Let me just turn the sound off on my, I'd forgotten about that, on my phone there. Okay, so yeah, we take this one out now, and you can see it's left that lovely grey border there. If I pop it on my hand, because it's the same colour as the desk. So we've got the yellow one is the largest, then we've gone down one to the grey. All right, and then you also get some freebies because these actually stock up, and you end up with a set of nesting circles that you could use on another design. I'll show you how I've used some of mine when we get there. So you can see now that we've used the first two in size. Okay, and then for the second layer, which is going to be this layer that's matted on that lovely honey yellow and the pattern paper, we're going to go down the next two sizes. Now I've already done this in preparation. As I say, I didn't want to spend too long just popping off to the die cutting machine. So I've got a piece of yellow that is 6 1/4 inches square, and then my pattern paper is 6 inches square, and the patterned one is, again, this one I actually bought last year, so I don't know whether they still have that this one. I'm fairly certain I had this last year from the range, and again it's got some lovely bright patterns in here, and I chose this one with the little circles on because we were creating on that tunnel. I've gone for that yellow one, but again we're not going to see a massive amount of it. It is just a decoration in the back because this one's going to sit over the top. So 6 1/4 for the yellow, 6-inch panel for the patterned paper, and then I took the next circle down and cut it in the center. So again I laid this one over the top where I wanted it to sit so that I'd got a nice even border around the edge, and then I could line up this one so that I'd got an even element of the pattern paper showing before I stuck it to the yellow one. So cut the pattern paper first, and then I've stuck the pattern paper onto my yellow piece so that I could see the difference, and then took the smallest one and just pop that one in the center, making sure that we'd got that nice even border around the edge. So just those 4 circles, those 4 nesting circles, has created our kind of tunnel effect there. Okay, so let's just pop those back to one side. Okay, and then these are going to go on the front of the card. So I've got some foam tape on the back of this one ready. Okay, and then I think, yeah, we'll pop a little bit of foam tape on this one as well, just to get that kind of tunnel effect going. So I'm just going to grab my tape. It's only 1mm, so it's not going to create a lot of depth on it. It does help, as I say, create that kind of tunnel effect. So I am literally just going to pop some pieces of tape onto that one as well, and then we can get these put together. So a couple down the side there, and then we'll cut that piece in half and pop a couple of pieces at the top and the bottom there. Okay, So first job, we're going to take the largest of the panels, and I do need to just whip the liner off these, and this is my Sticks 2 double-sided adhesive foam, so I've not had any trouble. I used to have a love-hate relationship with foam tape and foam pads, but since I've moved to this particular brand, I've not had any trouble with it at all. So yeah, this comes off nice and easy. It doesn't take long. I just use my craft pick to lift up that lining paper there, and you can see it's just coming off without any problem. So this first one is going to line up in the centre, and there was a slight direction, even though we're not going to see a lot of the paper, so I want to make sure my paper's the right way up. And again, I'm just going to lift this slightly because I can see around it easier rather than popping my head over the top and sticking it in the camera view. And then I'm just going to pop that one down with a pretty even border, so we've got that nice grey border showing, and we've got a little bit of depth now here where that tunnel's starting. Then we're going to do the same with this one. So again, I just need to take that liner off the tape, and then we can get cracking. Oops, a daisy, there's a bit, don't rip the band-aid, Jan. I got a bit giddy there with that one. And then we can get this one aligned on top, and because we did that little trick with the dies, I know that these are all going to fit nicely on top of each other. So again, I'm just going to lift it so that I can see where I'm heading with it, and I'm eyeballing the inside of the circle and around the outside edge. So we should have an even border around here, and we should have fairly even borders around the circle. And that's as simple as that technique is. It really is. It's just getting the order right to do them. And if you start from the largest and work your way in, it's easy to cut them and then stick them together. So I've got my little bunny at the ready. I've got some foam pads on the back of him, and he's going to come on this right hand side here so we can get him stuck down. I just need to take the backers off my little foam circles there. And yeah, there is quite a bit of dimension with this one, but like I said, I've made this with my family in mind for Easter, so it's going to be hand delivered. If you're concerned about the you know, the height of it, then you could stick these elements down flat. You would still get the idea that there is a tunnel going on there if you needed to mail something like this. And I know this is a lot bigger design than what you guys over in the States make, but you could create this tunnel on the smaller cards just by using smaller dies, smaller circle dies. So I think most of him is making contact with the card there. That's why I put the foam pads. I've got different heights of foam pads. I've just got one on his ears, I've got a couple there, and I've got 3 in the middle because it's going to go right into that center. So we're just going to stick him just sat there like so. Pop a little bit of glue under that side there where his bottom is, because that bit's actually going on to the card there. So we'll just pop a little bit of glue and hold that in place. And then I've also cut a couple of the carrots, and again you get a background piece with these. I'll just pull these 2 off the, you get a background layer here with the bunny and then the insert, so you can cut them together or you can just have them as one. Same with the carrots and the carrot tops, you get a background piece and then the little insert piece. So I've done the background pieces in a slightly darker shade, and these are all from my scrap box, all that textured cardstock, but they do make a really nice sort of embellishment. And I'm going to lay one of them flat, and then you cut the little stitches out separately. There's a little die that cuts the stitches out, and you can just apply them wherever you want them then. I'm going to put one of them across like that, and then I've got a couple of foam pads on the top of the other one, because this is going to go across the one that I've just stuck down. And again, we'll just pop them couple of little bits of adhesive on there, and then this one's going to slightly cross over with that one. And then the last thing, there is a heart die in this set, but I didn't want it, it was too big when I cut it. I didn't want it that big. It sort of goes with the bunny and the carrots, but when I actually popped it with the design, it was a little bit big. So I've just used one of my own heart dies, and I just wanted a little tiny touch of it here to complement that orange that we'd used on the carrots. So again, just offsetting what we've got here and bringing a little bit over that side. And then this is actually an old set from Crafter's Companion that they brought out not long before I left. This stamp set's called Easter Blessings, and it's got lots of lovely Easter sort of wishes and things on there. So I've just stamped out this one, the Easter wishes. I made a little flag banner with it. I've got some tape on one side because we're going to come over the layers that I've created with the tunnel part. And then I also want to put a little bit of the adhesive on here. And then we're going to put this one and just overhang to come level with that outside edge there. So I'm going to use the gingham part to get it nice and straight. Give that a press down. And then the foam pad was to just support it going off that edge layer. So you can see there, I know I'd got a little bit of it up prepared, but not too difficult to do for this one. And again, you could reduce it in size. You know, if you don't have these dies, if you've got smaller dies, you could actually reduce the size of it. Just reduce the circles. If you've got nesting dies, they normally go down to a little tiny circle, and you could create that tunnel effect. So again, as always with the sample, the only thing that I've added extra, I've got a little one of the crosses left, and then I've just added some nice shiny elements on there just to outline and focus on the little bunny. So we'll just pop that to one side. And then, like I said, when you cut these layers out, I've got the grey layer, the gingham layer, the yellow layer and the patterned layer in lovely nested circles. So what I did was actually take some of those and utilise it to create the greeting inside. So I've got a little tiny strip of the brickwork just to link it to the card, and then I took the yellow one, that lovely honey yellow, and the gingham check, and then cut out a white one to stamp my greeting, and that greeting was from the same pack there. So we've got that, have a happy Easter, and just stamp that on a piece of white and cut it with the next size down. A few of those stitches, so you can see how we've got the links there with the brickwork, the circles, the same pattern paper, the little stitches, and we're going to pop this one inside here with a little bit of my all-purpose glue. I've just gone around the edge of this with some yellow ink, and that was my opaque pigment Honey Pot from Spectrum Noir, which was the perfect shade to go with these. And again, as I say, I always say this, it's like you can do this straight into the back of the card. I know I've been asked about why do I create a second layer to go in the card, and it's just personal preference. I know some people do a mat and a layer to go inside, but I don't go that extravagant with my cardstock. But I do like to put a second layer in, and the reason being is it just balances out. There's a lot of weight on the front of my card with the amount of, if you think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of card stroke paper, so there's a lot of weight on the front of it, plus all the foam tape and everything. All this does is help, in my opinion, balance it out so that you don't get that I know when I first started card making, they often used to topple over because there was too much weight on the front, but by adding that extra layer in the back there, it's giving it a little bit of balance so that it helps. But yes, you can do this part of it straight onto the back of the card if you so wish. So yeah, just got a little bit different with it today and created that detail in the centre, echoed those circles like we had on the front, and it was using up some of the scraps that I'd cut out of the middle there, and you can see it stands up beautifully now with that extra weight in the back. So that's the first one of my Easter projects. I do have some more to come. I thought we'd start with a nice card because some of you may just want to make a card, but I've got a gift, a fancy gift box stroke gift bag, however you want to describe it. It's a basket, actually. I would say a gift basket. And then I have got another card done, which is a much more clean and simple looking one. It's a very straightforward on using one of the other dies. There was a little Easter egg, a little egg die in with this set as well, so I've used that to create a smaller, very simple design, but very good. Again, you know, this may not be your thing, this might be too elaborate, but we'll do something a little bit more simple. So those will be coming up soon as well. And until then, enjoy your day, have a crafty day if that's what you've got planned, and I'll be back with some more Easter projects very, very soon. So I'll see you then. Bye bye.